Hey, everybody. Welcome to So Many Sequels, your book club for movies. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
and I'm David.
Did it catch you off guard?
Yeah, I felt like you were right on top of Josh saying I'm Josh.
Oh,
Interesting. Okay.
producer, fix that in post.
Somebody will. Welcome to the summer season of Spielberg in space is our theme for this summer. We're really excited about Disclosure Day. I mean, who isn't?
Right.
Unless you're a loser.
An L7 weenie.
If you're a bunch of Spielberg sickos like us, you're really excited.
Sicko mode.
More Spielberg.
Disclosure Day, his latest Alien movie, comes out this June. Hyped. It's him going back to the basics. It's, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So we're talking about today. What else are we covering for this month?
E.T.
E.T. Yeah.
One of the biggest films of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to talk about as well, probably his least successful critically of the bunch is War of the Worlds. So we're going to go back to 2005 and sort of reanalyze that work.
Tom Cruise, Dakota Fanning, I think, as a child.
Yes.
Spielberg in space. That's the theme of the month. All to either probably wrap up with or somewhere in there include Disclosure Day too. Obviously, we're going to go watch that and talk about it. So be ready to go see that in theaters so that you can enjoy it with us. We are excited about it. But Close Encounters of the Third Kind is what we are about to talk about here today. If you haven't seen that before and you want to see it before you watch this episode, go do that. I think you got to rent it these days. I don't know that it's streaming anywhere. Did you guys find it streaming?
I found it on Prime Video, but I had to rent it.
Oh, rent it.
I had the option of buying it for $4.99 or renting it for $3.99, and I just was like, "There ain't no difference there. Give me it forever."
Yeah,
allegedly until Apple takes it away
forever. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, they'll take it away.
Yeah, at some point. But all right, good. Yeah, excellent. Let's get into it then. So Letterboxd describes this movie as, after an encounter with UFOs, an electricity linesman feels undeniably drawn to an isolated area in the wilderness where something spectacular is about to happen. This movie came out in 1977. What else? What was going on when this movie came out, David? How did it do?
Well, way back December 14th, 1977 is when it would release to the public. It had its official red carpet in a month earlier in November, but releases to the public just before Christmas of 1977. Big year 1977 for film, which we'll get into more in a minute here. But in its opening weekend, it brings in roughly $5.3 million. Is the number one movie of the weekend. Box Office Mojo providing most of the stats here, but the number two movie that weekend was Saturday Night Fever, bringing in 3.8, and then Star Wars Episode 4 is still in the grouping there with $800,000. So that's really all the Box Office Mojo has. It's kind of hard. We've talked about it many times before. Stats get a little harder the further back you go. But according to all the reports that I could find, the U.S. run through, because it ran through 1978, but its total run in the U.S. was $116.3 million. And over time, with international releases that followed and re-releases, it had a big re-release in 1980, like a special edition re-release where they added some previously cut stuff. Brought in $306.8 million in its worldwide total over time. So another big movie, all on a estimated budget of $19 million in 1977. It was the number 3 movie of 1977, behind Star Wars and Smokey and the Bandit.
Wow.
Yes.
Didn't expect that name there.
Hey, one for the future. So many sequels, boys. Is rewatch the Smokey and the Bandit series.
I love Smokey and the Bandit. Ain't no problem with Smokey. I'm just surprised.
It is, but Burt Reynolds, huge star. Other top movies in 1977 include Saturday Night Fever, A Bridge Too Far, The Deep, James Bond, 007, The Spy Who Loved Me. Annie Hall came out that year, Semi-Tough. So really good year for movies. It is the number 17 movie for Spielberg, unadjusted for inflation. Obviously, made in 1977. It's one of his earlier films, coming out right after. I think this is the next movie that came out after Jaws for him. But adjusted for inflation, this is interesting. It's his number 4 movie of all time, which makes sense. I mean, inflation's gone crazy since the 1970s, but it's his 4th movie all time when adjusted for inflation. Top movies for Steven Spielberg after inflation are Jaws, E.T., Jurassic Park, and Close Encounters. So those movies, compared to their, in their times, were so huge and would be even bigger today by comparison. It is for so many sequels. Just to give you guys a little bit of fresher, it is our where do I have this stat? It's our second movie from 1977.
I bet I know what the other one is, David.
Do you know the other?
I bet Star Wars.
It's Star Wars. It's the first movie ever, I think, right? First movie we ever recorded for this podcast.
Yeah, so we had to start good.
It's our 8th film of the 70s that we've done. You can watch, and honestly, what a banger lineup this is. If you ever really want to have just put yourself through a good run of movies here, so many sequels, 70s run is pretty great. You have Star Wars, Halloween, Superman the movie, The Muppet Movie, The Sting, Network, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and now Close Encounters. What a great run of this. What's the 70s run's been pretty good for us.
That's true. We picked some good ones from the 70s.
Yeah, I would say so too. I would agree with that.
And then you add in that this is currently our 6th Spielberg movie. We did the entire Indiana Jones series up to Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. And, well, we actually also did a review for Dial of Destiny back when it came out, but Spielberg didn't direct that one. So this is our 6th Spielberg movie because we did the entire Indiana Jones, the first 4, and then we did Ready Player One. Do you guys remember doing Ready Player One a year or 2 ago?
Heck yeah, for video game night.
Yeah, for game night. It was fun. And we're going to add 3 more to this list before the end of June. So Spielberg should become like our most watched director again at that point. So anyway, there's
nice.
What's going on in 77. What's going on?
Somebody will have to bet on Polymarket if that's true or not. How
Speaking
many
of
Spielberg
which,
movies
let's
will
take
they
our
review
first
this
break
month?
for DraftKings, who's decided to sponsor this movie podcast.
Yes.
Hey, you know what? They sponsor everything else. Wouldn't that be great? Throw us some cash.
Over,
no, I wouldn't take their dirty money.
Hell,
over and under on whether or not Garrett will. Over and under on whether or not Garrett will offend the community with his take.
I might.
Check
Garrett,
the
did you see
Discord
that
for
we
a
got?
recently lodged complaint.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah, I got to respond. I haven't yet.
Yes.
Listen, I will respond to any and all complaints. Send them
Yes.
my way.
If you have
I
a
ain't
complaint,
scared.
if you have a complaint, you can send them to Garrett Powders by way of so many sequels.
Oh my God.
Right here, we got that there.
You got to blur out and bleep the last name. You're doxing me. I mean, we live in this world where people can find us.
I think it's on our website.
Yeah,
My profiles are public. I don't care.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a good bit. I made this. Look at
That
this.
was nice. That was nice.
Wrote
we
that
work
out.
in public fields, unfortunately.
That's a home improvement bit.
Great, wonderful home improvement bit. Okay, back to the reality of the aliens. Great. You know, I actually read a fun fact that Spielberg and George Lucas made a friendly bet of sorts. Who knows if this is real or a legend? I didn't dig that deep, but a lot of people expected this movie to be the big success for Star Wars to flop. Star Wars was a surprise hit when it came out, and so they bet like the story is they bet like 2.5% of the returns, and so Spielberg makes a little money off that Star Wars bet to this day, allegedly.
That is actually so. Earlier, we may have mentioned that I was reading this book about this time period of film, the last kings of Hollywood: Coppola, Lucas, Spielberg, and the battle for the soul of American cinema by Paul Fisher. And that is one of the stories that they tell, is that Lucas was so terrified because THX had just really flopped. And so he was terrified because nobody understood what the hell he was talking about when it came to Star Wars. And so they had a screening, and Steven was like, it's going to be huge. It's going to make $100 million. I'll trade some of my shares for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And so there was like this gentleman's trade that they did with each other to help kind of give him the confidence that it was going to be a success. And turned out they were both right in the end.
I love that.
That book may or may not come up a few times today.
Sounds like it should.
That's the good research on this.
As I was going to say, I love when we do real research and read a real book about the real history
Yes.
of the things that we sometimes talk about. Because now you were able to validate that what I said wasn't just some internet legend I read.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, that's really cool. Because they're both, I mean, they're both great movies. They both did well. Obviously, Star Wars went on to become a much bigger thing than just a movie. But yeah, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This stars Richard Dreyfus, Melinda Dillon, Terry Garr. It's kind of one of those, I wouldn't say an ensemble cast per se, but it follows several different characters and their stories kind of intertwine here and there. I picked this movie. Well, are we doing that? Because we kind of picked these as a group.
Yeah, we kind of collectively picked them.
Well, we kind of
set what I felt I was leaning towards, but
there were 4 movies that really fit the idea. So,
but why for you, Josh, did this one speak to you?
I like that. Maybe we should tackle each of these movies that way. I've liked it. I saw it for the first time, maybe 7 or 8 years ago in the theaters. It was brought back for some anniversary, most likely. Anyway, I saw it there, and it was really cool to watch on the big screen. I don't know. I don't know why I'd never seen it for so long, because I'd seen a lot of other Spielberg movies, especially his alien ones. I knew all about E.T. and all that stuff, but this one escaped me. So I wanted to.
Because it was from the 70s and it felt old.
Maybe so. That could be it. Well, and it didn't have the like child friendly angle. Like, yeah, there's a kid in it, but not like E.T. Not that kid friendly. You know, what
E.T.
I mean?
Even like Jaws gets like, hey, summertime. It was on TV.
Yeah.
Like that, you could get a replay of Jaws on television. I just don't remember Close Encounters ever being like on TV.
No, it doesn't feel like it's not one of those movies. Like, I don't know how to describe it in that way. But yeah, that's kind of how it spoke to me. What about you guys? You guys have any history with this movie? You seen it before?
I don't think I had. The more I think about it, and after having watched it this time, if I had, I was single digits and have very little recollection of it other than the sound. I feel like that is the yeah. I feel like that's the most iconic aspect of this movie, and it has carried over. And so where even if you have probably never seen this and you watch it for the first time and you hear that sound, you go, I've heard that. I know this. Why do I know this? It's probably because it's been parodied and pop cultured all over the place. But if I had seen it, it'd been forever, ever, ever.
Yeah, and I definitely had never seen it. I had like Garrett mentioned, I had seen compilations that featured the first the first contact scenario there at the end with the music. I had seen like it being ranked and seeing like clips and pieces, but honestly, most of the clips I saw were all stuff from the very end. I don't think I'd seen a single frame of this movie from before the ending. So
yeah,
I'm really I'm really interested to talk about the actual story and like the events building up to the ending, because to me that was all brand new stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's. What about you, Garrett? Did you have anything more?
No, I didn't have much else.
Okay, perfect. Let's kind of get into the intermingling stories. Then we open with this. Well, actually, let me start this way. I watched the director's cut.
Yes, I believe I did too.
Did you?
Oh, damn! How long is that? The undirector's cut is at least 2:17.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
it's not much different.
No, I think
remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it adds or what's different, but establishing that, yeah, okay, sounds like we probably all watched that. Well, it opens with this discovery of these perfectly preserved World War II planes out in the desert. This scientist has been examining these. They also discovered a cargo ship in the middle of the desert. Weirdness going on. Then we've got the story of Barry, the little boy, and his mom. He is like drawn. His toys come to life, Toy Story style, which is scary to me. I thought that was scary.
Yeah, this movie had moments of very scariness, and I think that's purposeful.
Yeah, it's one of the many. So, and really anything that had to do with the mom and her son Barry, really were scary. Like that was like a horror movie segment of the film. It's one of the you could classify Jaws as Spielberg's like most like horror film, or even Duel as like being horror films. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, Spielberg has a great sense for horror and dread,
Hmm.
um, and that opening scene with them, that was a great key on it, and especially like just the idea of like your 2-year-old, 3-year-old wandering out of the house into the woods. Not
Yeah.
a not a comforting thought.
Yeah, he's just drawn off by whatever these unseen forces are. And then finally, we have Roy, played by Richard Dreyfus, who is the linesman talked about in the premise earlier, who experiences he sees UFOs too, and it draws him into an obsession as well. And the stories all intermingle from there. Um, what did you guys have a particular like which stories brought called you the most? I guess. Was there any more interesting than the other one you wanted to
Well,
follow?
I was surprised when it sort of settled in on Richard Dreyfuss's character, even though like I knew he was like top billing in the movie. But I was kind of surprised that it settled in with like him, because it felt like when it started with the military or scientists or whoever who were discovering this stuff, it really felt like that was where the sort of engine of the story was, because they were like, "What's going on? We got to figure this out." Especially Bob Babylon. Is that Babylon? Is that how you say his name?
I
His
don't know.
character being this guy who's like a cartographer, but he's basically only being employed to translate French. Like, I was like, okay, I was really fascinated when we started there. And this did, I think this is a remaster that they did at some point too, because it looked fantastic. But so I was really interested there, and Richard Dreyfuss and the sort of, small town folks who are just like becoming obsessed with the visions, with the sightings that they had, the interactions that they had. Um, I was surprised that it spent so much time on their perspective of the film. But I mean, it was good. I was just surprised.
Mm. Yeah, I would say I like the Richard Dreyfuss part the most. Interestingly enough, I think because of how just real and weird it was. Just because he's just like a grown man who got obsessed with it. You've
Hmm.
got the scientist studying it, and you've got the little boy just kind of wandering off, and the mom trying to find him. And then his story is kind of just like I don't know, self. He's doing it to himself.
Yeah.
You would
Well, I
guess.
mean, he seems like he's just going crazy.
Well, yeah, he
And we know
might.
why, but
You're right. Um,
But David, you mentioned earlier that Spielberg had a good sense of dread and like that suspense kind of building. He's
Mhm,
also got a good sense of wonder, and I think that's
mhm,
why the Richard Dreyfuss story is interesting, because if you look at it from that perspective, throughout the movie they're asking what his reason is, what his purpose is for being there,
mhm,
and he's like, I don't know. I'm just looking for an answer. I'm just trying to find that something is happening.
mhm,
And so he's got this sense of wonder and obsession, yes, but
mhm.
also a wonder of like what is going on that nobody else has got. The
Yes.
mother is invested in getting her child back. The scientists are invested in figuring out what the heck is going on, whereas he's just regular old dude from Indiana who is feeling like his life is not where he wants it to be, or that it's going crazy and that nothing spectacular. And then something happens and he doesn't know what, but it's to him something important, as he says. And now he's got this mission, but also this sense of wonder to figure out what the heck is going on. Is this bigger than what I think it is? Is this real? And I think that's why people connect with him on that level, because it is just, I want to be here.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's kind of interesting. So, I mean, I think it's a really smart move. And I think you see this, time and time again, especially in Spielberg movies, of you have this sort of, I don't know how to just describe it. You have these folks who are aware of the situation and trying to figure it out and follow it. And that's your scientists, your whoever this is, US government, whatever. They're following these breadcrumbs that are being left by these aliens, extraterrestrials, UFOs, whatever. And then you have just kind of like a slice of, like America, regular average Joe, I read that in early versions of the script, character was a policeman, but Spielberg was like, I don't think most people can relate to like a cop or a person in uniform. They need to like it needs to be even more everyman. And and so you get their perspective on how they get. And I think that also there's one aspect of like, at least in the cut we saw, I assume this is in the theatrical cut as well, but he actually, we see him have a strange encounter with the car, like the truck exploding, which was amazing. Like just like blowing, like things going crazy around him. Um, I actually got a little gasp. Jack watched this with me and he gasped when he's looking at the map and then he lifts it back up and the car is behind it. It looks like the car is behind him. And then instead of going around, it just goes up. Like that was like, oh, that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to see that, and it's kind of funny because if you take that out, he does just seem like a guy going crazy. He just seems like
Right.
he's losing his mind. But sort of seeing that, like this effect that there's a sci-fi component to it, obviously with UFOs, but there's also this kind of psychological supernatural thing of like all these people have all received the same image in their head and they can't move forward. Um they have to know what this thing is. And you see it's not just him, it's the mother's drawing the what is it, Devil's Tower over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
They're all, and then they get to later on they get and they find like there was 8 other people that had also broken through containment to try to get to whatever this thing was. That's a really different like way to present this too, and I found that to be really cool.
Yeah, there's a level again, I go back to wonder because I wondered half the time, I was like, what is going on? Because they never really explain what's going
No.
on other than they're trying to, you're kind of in this with them. You don't know what's going on. You had the same kind of encounter, but you're living this moment through them, through
Yes.
Richard Dreyfus specifically, because you don't have any reason to be there other than you want to be. You're invested in this. You're intrigued by the mystery. And so he gets so obsessed, and you see the tragedy in that with the family aspect, and he is so obsessed with something that he forgets everything else, and so I really
Yeah.
like that, and that's not explored as much, but unraveling this mystery is, the journey that he takes you on. You hit almost every emotion of wonder, scared, oh my God, what is this? This is really interesting. I wish I knew what was happening. Confused. Like, there's so many things that
Confusion,
you're
yeah.
going along with. And then that ending where they all come together and then it's not, it's not destructive.
No.
I was ready for it to be.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
it's Nikki pointed out that it doesn't spoon feed you the information, like even a little. Like, you get maybe a little bit from the scientists when they're like, these planes haven't been seen in 40 years or whatever. You get a little bit of that, but it's very like this is this a word? Experiential? Like you are you're experiencing all these things at the same time they are. No one's there to say, "Oh, by the way, this is what's happening." Or this is what like, you're kind of you kind of piece it along as you go too. Um
Mm.
and it just kind of I think that speaks a different era in film writing, I guess. Not to say which one is better or worse, but it just feels like it felt like I really needed to be paying attention the whole time, and there were easily things that, little details that you could miss and, like, you would not understand parts of the movie.
Yeah, I think so too, for sure. This Richard Dreyfuss role is interesting because he was not he was not thought of for the role. I read that a lot of other people were thought of, and they all turned it down. Um, and the story behind that is because most of the actors felt that the character was too crazy. Felt that he was too unhinged. Steve McQueen turned this down. Al Pacino, Gene Hackman, all said that they didn't understand the character's motivation and yada yada. How'd you go? What do you think about that? What do you guys think about that? Because it confuses me a little bit, just because it makes so much sense to me to see it. He's driven crazy by these aliens. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it's supposed to be logical. Finding
Having
logic in it is not the point.
having not read what the screenplay was at the time, I could imagine that on paper, and sort of without the the benefit of like how it all comes together, I could understand that might be a difficult role to sort of imagine, because like this guy's just kind of unraveling, but like it doesn't necessarily go somewhere, like like he unravels, but like he doesn't like he's not lashing out in any way. So like where's I could see that if you're an actor and you're trying to piece this together on paper.
Yep.
And it's probably, and I think it's been said many times that a lot of times, when they're filming, they might find it while they're filming as opposed to casting. But Richard Dreyfus, from what you said, he seemed to have it. He wanted to do it from the whole time. He was like on the cast.
Yeah, he
He's like on the set
campaigned
of
for it
Jaws.
more or less.
He's campaigning.
Well, and it was a
Yeah.
both and situation because Spielberg, coming out of Jaws, was trying to make a name for himself. So again, you have to look at the time frame that this movie came out too. It was the Spielberg helped change the direction of the film industry. I can't underscore that enough. Where it pre-Spielberg and some of these other directors in the 70s, it was the studios and the stars. The director didn't matter. It was the studios and the stars. Lucas, Coppola,
Yeah.
Spielberg made the director a star. But this was only Spielberg's fourth movie, y'all.
Mhm.
This was his fourth feature
And-
film.
And when casting was happening, Jaws hadn't come out.
Right. And he also didn't want to be associated with just the same actors. So he was trying to be like, I don't want to just have Richard Dreyfuss after Jaws into this same thing. It was the same reason George Lucas resisted having Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. It was he didn't want to be associated with them. But this is also a movie where it's not about an alien invasion, and
No.
the lead character is not cool. The lead character is not a hero. The lead character is not trying to kick ass of the aliens or anything. And so I also think that may have played a level of into this because these actors who are still draws trying to keep some level of their what they can be cast for, and they don't, they're manly men. They don't want to be showing empathy and emotion at that point in
yeah.
time. But Richard Dreyfuss, he doesn't have that same kind of, and no offense to Richard, but he doesn't have the same kind of machismo type thing that Steve McQueen and some of these
It
other
does
people you
sort of
mentioned
seem-
had. So it
Yeah,
makes
that
sense for him to be able to do that, and Steve McQueen would be like, I'm not actually kicking the ass of these
Yeah.
aliens. I'm gonna
Right.
pass.
They really
Actually,
people really credit that mashed potatoes scene for really like throwing people off. You're like, I'm not doing that with mashed potatoes.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how true this is, but in the from what I was reading through people's notes on things, one of the reasons Steve McQueen turned it down, I guess, is because in his own an admission of his own flaws, he said, "I'm not very good at crying on cue." And there's like at least a couple scenes where this guy has to break down crying, and I can't. He's like, I can't do that. So
Yeah.
maybe that's a
Know
easy
your
out
limits
for
as an
him.
actor too. That's
Yeah.
you key.
Valid.
Some guys are able to read something. They're like, I'm not actually a good fit for this. Some people like, will take the money no matter what, but they're also like, I can't do that. But
This
I
is-
could see that it's not like a clear cut archetype of what you might expect. And for an alien, for a UFO movie, I know we're calling this Spielberg in space, but we don't really even go to space, I think, in any of these. So it's more about space coming to Earth, but they don't, we don't really get the crystallization of all this until like the very end of the movie. So I could see that it being kind of a difficult thing for some of them to wrap their head around.
Yeah. If they're weak.
What did you guys think about the ending since we're there? I mean, like, so again, not having seen this movie and not remembering much other than the ending, I also don't remember much about the ship. I remember the little Simon video game music back and
Mhm.
forth that they had, but I don't
Mhm.
remember the ship. The ship was awesome.
Yeah. That whole scene
Ag-
was awesome.
And the whole,
looked like it
all
had
of the
city.
practical effects of this, like, it was crazy. I don't understand how this ship was made. There's some features that I might go watch, but like, holy
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah, and I want to credit kind of the lead up to that too, which starts with the mashed potatoes, where Richard Dreyfuss is slowly, but it takes him forever to realize he's obsessed with this
Devil's Tower.
Devil's Tower mountain structure of sorts, but he can't tell what it is or why until we get to that final scene of it where he's built he's built Devil's Tower out of dirt in his living room, and then he's on the phone and it's on the TV, and you're like yelling at the TV like, look at it, look at it. And then he finally does, and then you realize, yeah, that's the landing zone. That's where this ship is going to go. And so I just thought that was really fun. And then, yes, everything you said about the ship. I love the practical effects. I love that the aliens looked different from each other.
Yeah.
They had this, like, I don't know.
They had the Slender Man arms coming out of there for a second.
They had the kind of typical little green man imagery that you see, but there were varieties. There was like, yeah, one of them was a Slender Man looking dude. Some of them were just, Marv the Martian looking guys.
My son said, "Are those aliens?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "They look like naked 5-year-olds."
Yeah, they did.
They
might be.
Some aliens are, yeah.
But see, that's why Barry, the little boy, was so excited or whatever. He was just playing with some kids. He thought they was little kids to play with.
It is kind of interesting. We'll talk about this next week, but we really do kind of get a different version of like the E.T. encounter with this, of like the finding a small child finding an alien in their house yard scenario.
Well, and Spielberg, again, we may have mentioned this, but in his youth, he was so obsessed and wondrous and over space and aliens and things like that. And so this and E.T. specifically have such personal, youth-driven elements that he has, and they're different than what you get. So honestly, I haven't seen E.T. in probably just as long as I have seen this, so I'm excited to revisit that next week after going through this.
Yeah. I want to also say about the ship, I was actually really, really surprised that we see some of the ships really early. Like we see some of the smaller UFOs flying like really close to the ground. That scene where the cops are chasing it and one of them just like flies off the cliff after it. That was an awesome stunt. And but yeah,
I yelled at the TV then too. I was like, why did you drive off the cliff?
It was like, whoa, and he took off like full speed off that thing. Dukes of Hazzard style stunt, what that was. And but yeah, we got to see him, and like the general idea of like just these lights, and multicolored lights and the shining down, and we get some close encounters, if you will. But it was very interesting that they brought that in within like the first half hour of the movie, where you're already seeing some of these ships, and then the way that builds, so the main characters, they escape the military and they're working their way around the mountain to get to this, site that is, I think, stamped in cinema now, the site where they encounter the aliens, and they start blasting the do 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 do, and you see like some of the ships come in and they start repeating the melody, and then when that mothership like comes out of the storm and just comes out, and it's just humongous, like it like, and it looks like it has like a city in it, like how big it is. And again too, like this is a kind of a testament to like how this movie sort of stands out. Like I didn't know that we got to see any aliens pop out. I knew that there was going to be people. Like I'd seen this shots of like people walking out, but I'd never seen the aliens. So that was really interesting. And yeah, and the music thing is so fun. I sent you guys a clip of Spielberg. I don't know if you guys got the chance to watch this. Spielberg, when he was on Inside the Actor's Studio with James Lipton. And it's this really great clip where Lipton points out to Spielberg, and you can see Spielberg's face light up, because it was one of those things of like, I didn't even know that about myself. Thank you. He was very excited because he says, your father was a computer technician and your mother was a musician. And in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the way they communicate with each other is through music via computers. And Spielberg just kind of like his eyes light up. Like he's like, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that it's like my mom and dad talking through music and computers.
Well, mom and dad are arguing a lot in this movie too. So
yeah, how that technology came through. But yeah, it is the ending is so interesting. It's and it's a good chunk towards the end of the movie. Like maybe the director's cut is an extended element of that. But you see the scientists gathered around. You see Roy, I think is the actual character's name, Richard Dreyfus' character. He's like he sneaks down there, and then he ends up leaving with them. And that was kind of a surprise to me as a ending too. Is
By
he
his
just
choice.
Yeah, they kind of pick him too. They had like a whole line of people like, can you want to take these guys with you?
Well, because everybody else there was waiting for someone to be dropped off.
Mhm.
He was the only one there waiting to go.
Mhm.
At least based on the story structure that they gave us. Everybody that was there was trying to either figure it out
It is
or wait for
Yeah.
someone to be dropped off, and he was looking for something.
gotta be. See, now this is so I don't often advocate for sequels, and I'm not really advocating for a sequel here. But you think about like just a movie, and it's some guy. He goes, like, tell me about your dad. Oh, my dad, he effing disappeared in 1977 after going crazy. We went back to the house, and he built a mountain out of dirt in our kitchen, and we never saw him again. Dude's just gone. That to me was it was a really interesting ending.
I also want to just say, even though I know how this movie goes, when the aliens came out and the first one came out and I was still waiting for him to just light somebody on fire. And I hate that because this whole movie is supposed to be about like leaning into the wonder and the mystery of it all and what's out there and the optimism.
Nobody tries to kill each other in this movie.
No, but we're sitting there like, okay, all right. But now they're gonna light him on fire.
Where's the flamethrowers?
That's the way I felt. Even though I knew that's not the case, I've seen it parodied before. I've seen that set up that way. But even still, you don't just see a lot of alien interaction movies where the interactions mostly
Sort of
in the
benign,
build,
yeah.
and like it's a good thing. It doesn't always. 90% of the time, it ends in destruction of some kind.
Yeah, well, one way or whether it's whether it's the aliens as the aggressor or humanity as the aggressor, and we'll get to some alien aggression in the future here, but it's a pretty benign interaction, and there are a lot of questions left. Like, so wait, was this the whole thing? They came down, they landed, they returned some people they'd abducted over maybe upwards of 40 years. And then they took one human away with them and do they ever come back? Is there more interactions we have? We don't really know. But I do think it was
know.
But this movie also is from a time where I think there was an optimism about where technology would take us. And that because of the technology of even by the 70s with the burgeoning computers and satellites and the way they could track things like that, we were finally becoming sort of, we were growing as a society to the point that aliens would be interested in this or something like that. We were reaching a new step in where we could be. I'm much more optimistic then.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, these days a lot of people would welcome our new alien overlords.
I think I might at this point. Can't be worse.
Don't blame me. I voted for King.
Need to get some of those stickers.
For if anybody's out there, yeah.
We love a Simpsons reference. All right, well let's do our final ratings and reviews here for this movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Which there was a little thing in here from my notes where the first kind is sighting, the second kind is physical evidence, and the third kind is actual contact.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever stated that in the movie.
I don't think so. I think you're supposed to just like know that or figure it out for yourself. I don't think they ever say Close Encounter of the Third Kind in the movie either.
No, I know they said
it's
encounter.
Not one of those where they say
they've said Close Encounter. I think they said Close Encounter.
That. Yeah,
because I was ready for it. I was like, oh, you
say
tease.
the whole thing.
You tease.
Yeah, very interesting. Anyway, yeah, I really like it. I think it holds up. That 77. That's almost 50 years next year, right? So 50 years later, it's still very, very good alien movie. We're still look at the news today. People are still obsessed with aliens. They're releasing files, alleged. I don't know what they are, but they're talking about it.
They deport them all the time.
I was referring to the other type.
UFOs.
Oh.
Actually, they don't even call them UFOs anymore. They're like UAEs or something.
Yeah, I hate that. They've made up some nonsense.
Yeah.
But anyway, people still love to talk about UFOs and aliens, so I think it still holds up. I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars. Which I maybe is generous. I don't know.
I was kind of on the same fence because going into this, I have a general idea, and then I like to let the conversation influence me. And the conversation got me up to a 4.5, but I also feel like that's a little too high. But I'm not going to change it. I also think that this movie holds up really well. I think that there's a lot of personal elements into it, and I think it presents a different kind of alien movie that we don't explore enough. Plus the practical effects of the time for the 70s holding up. Like, yeah, 4.5. It's very little complaints.
Yeah, I do think that it sort of lives up to the legacy. I think if I watch this a few more times, I might rate it higher. And I'd love to dig in on like I have to assume that maybe there's a DVD commentary with Spielberg talking about it or something. They did a big re-release for this in the early 2000s for DVD and Blu-ray. So yeah, I think based on what I saw, which I believe from what I can tell was the director's cut, theatrical cut. I'd be interested to see what that was like too with whatever was taken out. But I think I'm also good with maybe a 4.5. I don't think this is my favorite Spielberg movie I've ever seen, but I think obviously it has a really strong legacy and it didn't live down to that to me.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, that's easy across the board. 4.5 from us.
Mhm.
Some of the popular reviews here on Letterboxd as we think about what the score there is going to be. We've got 4.5 stars. We should all be communicating exclusively through John Williams music. That's not the worst idea ever.
No.
This one doesn't have a star rating, but it does say, God forbid a guy scares his friends and family by worshiping a big rock. 4 stars. I'm not a regular blonde lady. I'm a blonde lady who believes in aliens.
Ayo.
And then finally, 4.5 stars. A beautiful fantasy that intelligent life is out there and will come in peace. And also that if your father left, it would be for very important reasons.
I'm telling you. He just left. And then he kissed some other lady on the way
He said,
out, too.
F that family. I have aliens
He
now.
did. He did.
Anyway, what do we think? Who's guessing first?
I am in last place.
Oh.
Current score is me 5, Garrett 6, Josh 7.
is in the lead.
Josh is in the lead. A rare spot for
my
Josh.
God.
I'm excited.
So I'm going to guess that over all this time, Close Encounters is still like a 4.0.
Okay.
That's a good spot. I'm gonna raise you a 4.1.
Okay, well then I'm gonna, I guess, be easy and go 3.9.
Yeah.
And just take the low end of that. Let's see here. We got 4.0, 4.1, and 3.9. Get back to my Letterboxd tab. Ooh, still no direct hit. But I'm going to add one more point to my column. This is just a little bit less. It's a 3.8.
Oh,
Okay.
fascinating.
Which I guess is
felt like it
fine.
could go either way.
I guess is fine.
That's
Yeah.
all right. That strikes Josh out into a firm lead now with 8.
Wow.
Garrett
Way to
at
mess
6,
up the
me at
math.
5.
It's been a long time.
You
I don't think
deserve this,
has-
Josh.
I think Josh has won since like season 2 or 3.
Josh
you
has
know.
never won. Oh,
He's like a Rotten Tomatoes
Josh has
king
never
way back in the
won.
day.
I thought you meant like the game.
Never had the
He's-
trophy.
Yeah, he's never had the trophy, but you mean this is the first time he's won since season 2? Wow, that's a long time, Josh.
No,
That's a
I mean
dry
like
spell.
if he wins the whole thing. If he
That
wins
is
the whole thing,
hell
it'd
of
be
a dry
it'd be-
spell.
Yeah.
That's like the Knicks going to the finals finally.
Oh,
I only have stats going back to 2023. So
Only 2023, huh?
yeah.
F. Nothing good happened before then, I guess.
Oh.
Anyway, okay. Well, that does it for us. We've got more Spielberg in space coming up this month, like we said earlier in the show. Stay tuned for E.T., War of the Worlds, and Disclosure Day. That one's coming to theaters very soon. So very excited for that one. Get your tickets early. Subscribe to the show, SoManySequels.com. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you might get podcasts. We will see you guys next time.